back to the HaneyBiz Project with host Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of Sun System Technology. I'm Mark Haney, and I am joined by a man who has helped so many companies achieve success with his accelerator program and his business, GrowthX. I'm here with Mr. Sean Sheppard. How you doing, Sean?
Great, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to thank you for coming down today. And a lot of us in Sacramento don't know yet what GrowthX is. Give us an overview of what you're building at GrowthX.
I think the easiest way to explain it is GrowthX is an ecosystem to support entrepreneurship and innovation in any community. The reality is that 70% of funded companies fail. Yeah. 8 of the top 10 reasons they fail have to do with markets and the people running the companies. Only 2 of those 10 have anything to do with product, yet we encounter over and over again, and understandably so, and I respect and appreciate it, but we encounter product-focused founders that don't know anything about how to develop their markets.
You know, I have met a few of those people that are more engineering-based. They're very caught up in their product, but yet getting it sold is not so easy for them, and maybe it's because they're just not built that way. So now you guys are building an accelerator, a venture fund, a school, and much more in GrowthX. And you guys are in the heart of San Francisco, yet your processes are being brought to the rest of the world. But let's talk about what you're doing right there in San Francisco, which is the heart of entrepreneurship and innovation and technology in so many ways. Talk to us about specifically what happens when you walk into GrowthX.
Sure. Well, we have a fund to invest in early stage companies. We bring founders and funders together. We have an accelerator to help those companies grow. And then we have an academy to develop the talent that wants to work in the startup ecosystem. And then an innovation group and GrowthX Studios that works with big companies that are afraid of being the next yellow cab in the age of Uber. How do you build relationships with startups? How do you leverage that to create a competitive advantage for your own company? So it becomes a platform to help everybody entrepreneur develop and build companies. And look, the reality is that there's access to capital is plentiful. It's there if you know where to look and how to find it, but access to knowledge and know-how is not plentiful. And what we want to do is take all the great things that we've learned and developed and that we know work in Silicon Valley and bring them to the rest of the world.
Well, let's talk about GrowthX a little bit. You founded that a number of years ago. Talk to us about the founding team of GrowthX and how you got started.
Yeah, we're all serial entrepreneurs like you, Mark. We've all been, I grew up, I think we talked about this off the air, but I went to Oakmont High School.
Oakmont High School right here in
here.
Roseville, right outside Sacramento.
Yeah, and I was raised by a guy who, was with Intel for a lot of years, and so I watched what technology could do. So I've been fortunate. I've started 5 companies. I've sold 3 in a wide variety of products, markets, and verticals. And I've always been a sales and marketing guy. I've been a market developer, not a product developer. I've been fortunate to be teamed up with great product people, and I think that's what it takes. And in this case, my other partner was the founder of Match.com, the world's largest online dating site.
Just an entrepreneur just like me. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, he raised $90,000 to build the world's largest online dating site.
Yeah, I can relate.
So he figured out how to do the least amount of work with the most amount of return possible. My other partner, Andrew Goldner, was a corporate lawyer at Skadden and the chief technology counsel at DoubleClick, and sold them into Google, and then acquired Reuters for the Thomson Reuters family and ran that for many years. Other partner, Russell Lewis, was the founder of the truck bed liner. He invented it, Rhino Linings. Yeah, he still owns it, 86 countries, executive chairman. So we're all successful entrepreneurs. We all started getting into investing in companies. What we realized is that our help was more valuable than our money under the right circumstances. And then how could we help at scale? How could we give back in a way to the pursuit of this profession or discipline or this human condition or affliction we have called entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's kind of addictive. You've had a number of exits, but you can't quit it, huh?
No, it's too. So that entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well in every corner of the globe. What isn't alive and well is an understanding of how to do it the right way. So if you do fail, you fail for the right reasons, because there's no market for your product, because you're not solving a problem. Nobody cares about your product. They care about the problems that they have and whether or not you can solve them. And so shifting the mindset of the entrepreneur away from product centricity to market centricity, recognizing that between product team and market, market always wins. It decides in a fairly free market environment anyway, who wins and who doesn't.
So what I'm hearing from you is if they build it, right? If you build it, they may not come, right? You can build the greatest product in the world, but if there is no sales, you have nothing other than a cool product sitting in your lab or in your garage.
No, that's right. And so the fundamental shift that's happened in the last 20 years is that it's never been easier or cheaper to start a company. And it's never been more expensive or difficult to grow it. When I raised money, the first time I raised money from Guy Kawasaki. Some of you may have heard of him, and I raised $8.5 million just to get a minimum viable product to market, just to test it to a first customer.
Wow.
I could build that same product today, 18 years later, for about $200K. Product developers are the new factory workers. That's the reality. All the infrastructure exists now. 90% of the software automation and the workflow and the processes that we've all been talking about can be built pretty quickly with a couple of code monkeys and some workflow processes.
And all you code monkeys out there, we love you, but we happen to be sales guys. So this is no offense from the HaneyBiz project to the engineers and the scientists. But you know what? I agree with you that as salespeople, or excuse me, as entrepreneurs, as people that are responsible for the bottom line and building something that grows into the future, you have to be able to sell that. So what kinds of things you do is you help accelerate these businesses and these business ventures in teaching them how to get their products from the design stage to actually in customers' hands where they're paying money for it?
We've developed a methodology that works in any industry, sector, market, or product. The idea is that products and markets are unique, but the path to product market fit is not. Every individual has to do the same things. They might not recognize it at the time, but when you talk to them in hindsight, they recognize that those are the actual steps that you had to go through. So our job is to help people figure out how to get the knowledge, skills, and then most importantly, the behaviors necessary to get to the truth.
Yeah.
Whatever that truth is for them. They also have to recognize the reality that the money spends very quickly, that they have limited time and money and resources to get to that truth. If you ask founders, most of them will tell you that they failed because they ran out of money. That's nonsense. They just misallocated the money you gave them. And so why not give them the tools necessary to help them grow? So this way we do less investments, spend more time with them, and deliver a much higher return to our investors while giving back to a community to help them develop their own economic ecosystem.
Talking today with Sean Sheppard of GrowthX, talking about, I guess he's reaffirming some of the things that we talk about on this show, about getting product to market being so important and really the difference maker when it comes to staying alive and thriving in entrepreneurship. When we come back, we're going to ask Sean to stick around a little bit. We're going to be talking about innovative strategy and maybe a little bit about Sacramento's unique opportunities in entrepreneurship. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of Rockland Audi. This is the HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back to Mark Haney, igniting the entrepreneurial revolution with the HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of the accounting firm Clifton Larson Allen. I'm Mark Haney, and I am rejoined by Sean Sheppard. He is the co-founder of GrowthX. Now, Sean, you guys are all about innovation. We've been talking about getting these products to market as being so important, but sometimes that takes some creativity in and of itself, finding ways to bring products to market, maybe in a different way. And I guess my question to start this segment is, how do you put yourself in the right mindset to think differently?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because the four pillars of the academy and how we think about education and developing other humans starts with mindset. It goes mindset, mastery, career, and community. And mindset's always number one. You've got to get your mind right. You need a growth mindset. The idea that every aspect of your entire life is available for improvement. The idea that in a human-centered role and world, there's no distinction between personal and professional development. Dr. Carol Dweck out of Stanford University has done some amazing research on this. She's got a book called Mindset that I highly recommend everyone read. That's all about the difference between people who have a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So here's a great example. In our world, we replace the word rejection with feedback, and we view feedback as a gift. Okay, we replace the word assume with hypothesize. Think of how that changes your brain and the next step in your thought process when you go from operating on an assumption, which my dad always told me, never assume anything except responsibility for your own behavior. He was right about that. Doesn't mean I've done it. But you replace assume or assumption with hypothesis. What are you going to do next? Hopefully you're going to test it instead of act as if.
Right.
And that's where things get dangerous with founders. They get biased into their own beliefs. They drink their own Kool-Aid. They, in fact, are just a walking, meat suit of Kool-Aid themselves. I mean, they've bought into whatever they're doing, and they should. But what they also have to recognize is that the market's going to tell them their whole opportunity, everything they communicate to the world should be to generate a response from the market. I'm here to learn. I think I've got something that can help you. I'm not sure. I hypothesize this value. Let's have a conversation to understand that. 90% of what we all take to market the first time is wrong. The goal is to just be 89% wrong tomorrow based on what we learned today. So that's mindset. You've got to get yourself into that. You need to be hungry and humble and be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all.
So as we take our product to market and we begin to learn, we are faced with the reality that companies like Uber and the Amazons of the world, I guess there's not too many Amazons, but those kind of disruptive factors are coming to every industry. So I always have the mindset of let's focus as small as we can in a market and try to create something unique, differentiated, hopefully disruptive, maybe at some point. But I mean, we have these big platforms and ways of thinking are really changing some of the old ways we used to think about building businesses. I mean, how do you see that in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think some of it is dangerous thinking to follow. So, for example, what you'll find if you look through the history of disruptive technologies in the marketplace, it's typically the fast followers that end up winning because the innovators typically,
So you
pioneer.
don't have to be first to market in
No.
order to win. It might not
No.
even be the right strategy.
No, the pioneers are always the ones with the arrows in them, right? So
Right.
they're the ones that learn all the hard lessons. And, I'm not sure. There's a lot of conversation right now whether or not Uber's going to survive this whole thing because they're nowhere near profitability. Yeah. They've invested themselves into market share, but they still have yet to demonstrate to the world that they can make money on a single transaction. Yeah. And until they can, the jury will be out. I know that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Well, that's what we thought with Amazon. Obviously, they were unprofitable for many, many years, but now that focus on growth, it's really worked out okay for them because
they got the profitability
positioned
a lot
well.
faster than a lot of these companies do. And in the fourth industrial revolution, which we're just entering now, where 40 to 50% of the jobs will be taken over by robots as repetitive and non-critical thinking in nature. We have to prepare our workforce and our economies for the fact that these companies will come and go faster than they've ever come before. For example, today, the average tenure on the S&P 500 is like 15 years. In the 50s, it was 75 years for one to get turned over of 500 companies. Things are moving so quickly.
Well, as robots and machine learning enter into the mainstream of the business community, as the Ubers and the Amazons and these large platform type companies come in, I mean, this machine learning, do you think it actually replaces jobs, or do you think it complements the worker?
Well, it's going to replace a lot of the low-level jobs that do not require creative thinking. We already have a salad machine making me salads in my office. It's pretty awesome, frankly. The thing that we have to, but what that does do is it creates new opportunities to add value in other ways. So, for example, we just had the 50th anniversary of the ATM machine. Okay. The ATM machine just turned 50 like a month ago. When those first came out, the entire world was decrying this is the end of bank tellers and retail banks.
Right.
Well, we've tripled the number of tellers, and we've 5x the number of retail locations. Why? What are we doing differently? Well, those same tellers are now adding value in other ways. They're becoming loan officers. They're getting you signed up for lines of credit. They're coming up with all sorts of interesting and unique ways of creating debt for the American consumer.
We're better
Yay to
serving
them.
our customer.
Yeah, we're better serving our customer. No, but we are. We're adding value in different ways. So technology doesn't just replace one particular job. It creates a whole host of new ones.
We only
and
have...
that's where people have to change their mindset. This is not a zero-sum game. You're not
Right.
taking a job away, therefore there's no other one. Factory work will come back to the U.S., but it's going to come back in the form of robotics, automation, and 3D printing, because it'll be cheaper to build most of the things that we're building overseas here through 3D printers than what we're doing right now in China, which is the world's factory for now. And if you haven't been to China, you know, it's not a good thing what's going on over there. You cannot breathe. You have to walk around with a freaking mask.
I have definitely been there, and it's horrible. I was there for the Olympics, and they had cleaned it up for the Olympics, and it was still bad. But you know, just as we kind of close out this segment, Sean, and think about advice to entrepreneurship. There's so many people out there that talk about being disruptive, and they even brag about their product that's going to be so disruptive. I guess my question of you, as you advise entrepreneurs, is it better to be loud about how disruptive you're going to be, or is it better to have a secret sauce that and maybe go into a disruptive approach more quietly?
Loud, I think the question really is that if loud is part of your customer acquisition strategy and it works, then be loud. But if it's not and it doesn't, then don't. Traction speaks louder than words ever have. And the only thing I care about is whether or not you've got real customers that are strangers paying you for a product or service for a problem they can clearly articulate that you solve better than anything else they've done. That's the only measure that matters. The hard part is getting to that point. And that's where most entrepreneurs fall down. They don't know how to do that quickly, well, and within the time allotted based on the resources that they have. So they need to just stop, focus on that execution, get clear on who their customer is, where they are, how to find them, how to talk to them in a way that gets them to provide that feedback, and then whether or not that's a profitable venture. That's it.
I am here with getting some sound advice and appreciated knowledge from Sean Sheppard, a man who has founded GrowthX, but he's talking about focusing on driving new business from strangers and that traction speaks louder than words. I love that line. When we return, I will be joined by Jared Taylor, founder and chief people catcher of Black Rifle Coffee. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of the Entrepreneurs Organization of Sacramento and the law firm Greenberg Traurig. This is the HaneyBiz Project.